The rain is a constant whisper against the glass. A thin, weeping sound that has been the only voice in Alara's life for 3 weeks. Her grandfather's cabin is a fortress of pine logs and silence, perched on a mountain that cares little for the world below. It smells of damp earth, wood smoke, and the faint, sweet scent of the tea she can no longer stomach. She rests a hand on the taut swell of her belly, a protective gesture that has become as unconscious as breathing. Inside her, a tiny life flutters, a secret kept between her and the groaning timber of the walls. 6 months. 6 months of this quiet, rhythmic growth. 3 weeks of this self-imposed exile. The world she left behind was one of polished steel, muted grays, and the cold, clinical voice of Marcus explaining why this child, this disruption, was an unacceptable complication. "We'll handle it," he'd said, his hand not on her but on his phone, already scheduling the appointment, as if she were a logistical problem, a stain on his perfect 5-year plan. He didn't look at her when he said it. He looked at the skyline from their penthouse window, a view he'd always claimed was a testament to his success. Her silence, her refusal, had been a foreign, ugly thing in his pristine world. So she had packed a single bag, emptied the joint account of the money her grandmother had left her, and fled. She fled to the only place that held a memory of unconditional safety. Her grandfather's cabin. He'd been gone for years, but his scent lingered in the wool blankets, in the worn leather of his favorite armchair. He'd taught her the names of the trees, the language of the birds, and how to be quiet enough to hear the mountain breathe. He'd also taught her to be wary. "Nature is honest, Alara," he'd say, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "It's not kind, it's just true. You respect its teeth." She thinks of his words now as the wind picks up, rattling the window frames with a sudden, violent shudder. The whisper of the rain becomes a roar. A storm is rolling down the spine of the mountain, a great, dark beast of a thing. She feels a familiar tremor of anxiety, a cold snake coiling in her gut. It's the same fear that gripped her in the city, the fear of being small and alone and unseen. Here, at least, the fear feels honest. It's a fear of lightning and falling trees, not of a man's dismissive gaze. The lights flicker once, twice, then die. The cabin plunges into a thick, velvety darkness, broken only by the pale, milky light of the storm outside. Her breath catches. The silence that follows is deeper, more profound. The hum of the small refrigerator is gone. The world is just the storm and the frantic, sudden drumming of her own heart. She feels for the matches on the mantelpiece, her fingers clumsy in the dark. The rough scrape of the match head, the flare of sulfur and light, is a small victory against the oppressive dark. She lights a cluster of candles, their warm glow pushing back the shadows, making them dance in the corners of the room. The baby kicks, a sharp, insistent jab against her ribs, a reminder, you're not alone. "I know," she whispers to the curve of her stomach. Her voice is a croak, rusty from disuse. "I'm here." A flash of lightning illuminates the forest for a stark blue-white second. A world of thrashing trees and silver, driving rain. And in that second, she sees it. A shape, dark and low to the ground, near the edge of her small porch. It's gone as quickly as it appeared, swallowed by the returning dark. Her mind scrambles. A deer? A bear? Bears were common here. Her grandfather had kept the trash in a locked shed for a reason. She holds her breath, listening over the howl of the wind. Nothing, just the storm. Maybe it was a trick of the light. A shadow, a log. Her own fear giving shape to the dark. She tries to dismiss it, turning her back on the window, her heart a frantic bird beating against her ribs. She forces herself to focus on the simple task of making tea over the small gas camp stove she keeps for emergencies. The hiss of the gas, the clink of the kettle, these are normal sounds, safe sounds. Then comes a different sound. A low, scraping noise from the porch. It's not the wind. It's not the rain. It's the sound of something heavy, dragging itself across the wood. The snake of fear in her gut tightens its coils. This is stupid. You're locked in. You're safe. But the sound continues, followed by a soft, wet thud against the base of the door. A whimper. It's a sound of such profound, gut-wrenching pain that it cuts through her fear. It's not the aggressive sound of a predator. It's the sound of something dying. Her grandfather's voice echoes in her mind. Respect its teeth. Don't be a fool. A wounded animal is the most dangerous thing in these woods. But another voice rises to meet it. A colder, more recent memory. The clipped, indifferent tone of the first doctor she saw. Are you sure? These things can be mistaken? The unspoken judgment, the dismissal, the feeling of being turned away, of her own crisis being treated as an inconvenience? And Marcus. This is your problem to fix, Alara. Don't be so dramatic. No one had helped her. No one had opened the door. The whimper comes again, weaker this time. A thin thread of sound nearly lost in the gale. She finds herself moving towards the door, her hand outstretched. What are you doing? This is insane. Her hand touches the cool, rough wood of the door. On the other side is a wild thing. A thing with teeth and claws and every reason to lash out in its pain. But she can't shake the sound of that whimper. It's the loneliest sound she's ever heard. Lonelier, even, than her own silence. She makes a decision. A foolish, reckless, utterly illogical decision. She cannot be the person who leaves another living thing to suffer alone in the dark. She just can't. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, she draws back the heavy iron bolt. The click is deafeningly loud. She opens the door a crack. The wind shrieks, flinging icy rain into her face and threatening to extinguish the candles. Cold air floods the small, warm space. At first, all she sees is darkness. Then a flash of lightning cracks the sky open again, and in its brilliant, stark glare, the world freezes. It's a wolf. Not just a wolf. It's a monster. A creature of myth. Impossibly large. Its fur, the color of jet and midnight. Matted and dark with rain and something else. Blood. One of its forelegs is bent at a sickening, unnatural angle, and a deep, ragged gash runs along its flank, pulsing a dark, sluggish red onto the wooden planks of her porch. But it's the eyes that steal her breath. In the fleeting, stark light, they are not the flat, feral eyes of a wild animal. They are a startling, intelligent gold. And they are fixed on her. Not with aggression. Not with threat. With a silent, desperate plea. The darkness slams back down, but the image is burned onto the inside of her eyelids. The sheer size of it. The impossible gold of its eyes. The raw, undeniable agony. The door strains against her hand, the wind trying to rip it from her grasp. Close it. Lock it. Go back to the fire and pretend you saw nothing. This is the sensible thing to do. The logical thing. The safe thing. Marcus was always logical. Everything was a calculation. A cost-benefit analysis. Helping a dying wolf in a storm? The cost was too high. The benefit, non-existent. She thinks of the baby inside her. A life she chose to protect against all logic. She shoves the door open wider. Okay, she whispers into the storm, the word torn from her lips. Okay, you can come in. She doesn't know if it understands. She doesn't know what she's doing. But she steps back, holding a candle aloft, creating a small circle of light in the doorway. An invitation. The great beast struggles. It tries to rise, its massive shoulders bunching with effort, but a fresh wave of pain makes it collapse with a pained grunt. It drags itself forward, inch by painful inch, pulling its shattered body over the threshold. The sound of its claws scraping on the wood floor is a visceral, terrifying sound. It leaves a wet, dark smear of mud and blood in its wake. Once inside, out of the direct assault of the wind, it collapses fully onto the braided rug before the hearth. Its head rests on its paws, and its breathing is a series of shallow, ragged pants. The rise and fall of its ribs is a stuttering, desperate rhythm. Alara slowly, carefully, pushes the heavy door shut, ramming the bolt back into place. The roar of the storm is once again muffled, distant. The cabin is suddenly very small. It's filled with the presence of this creature, the smell of wet fur, of blood, of the wild, untamed forest. It's a primal, earthy scent that overpowers the familiar smell of pine and dust. She stands frozen for a long moment, the candle wax dripping onto her trembling hand. The wolf lies utterly still, except for its panicked breathing and the slow, constant seep of blood from its side. Her grandfather's first aid kit is in the bathroom, the one he kept stocked for hunting accidents and mishaps with axes. It's full of sutures, antiseptic, and thick gauze bandages. Her mind feels slow, syrupy with shock. Move. You let it in. Now you have to do something. Leaving the candle on the mantel, she fetches the kit. Her hands shake as she opens the metal box. The clinical smell of rubbing alcohol fills the air. She approaches the wolf slowly, cautiously, like approaching a bomb. I'm not going to hurt you, she says, her voice barely a whisper. She feels foolish talking to it, but the silence is worse. I just want to see. The wolf's golden eyes follow her every move. There's a deep intelligence there, a terrifying awareness that she can't explain. It doesn't growl. It doesn't shift. It simply watches her, as if weighing her, judging her. She kneels beside it, her own body aching with the strain. The warmth radiating from its massive form is like a furnace. She can feel the fever coming off it in waves. The gash in its side is worse than she thought. It's deep, torn open as if by the claws of something even larger. Or perhaps caught on a sharp rock or a broken branch in a fall. Debris is embedded in the wound. It will get infected. It will die. Okay, she breathes, more to herself than to the animal. Okay, Alara, you can do this. She soaks a clean rag in the warm water she'd boiled for her tea. Hesitating for only a second, she reaches out and gently, so gently, begins to clean the edges of the wound. The wolf flinches, a full-body tremor, and a low growl rumbles deep in its chest, a sound like shifting tectonic plates. Instinct screams at her to pull back, to run, but she looks at its eyes. They are squeezed shut in pain, but it doesn't move to bite. It doesn't snap. It is bearing the pain. It is trusting her. I'm sorry, she murmurs, her voice thick with an emotion she can't name. I know it hurts. I'm so sorry. I have to clean it. She works methodically, her fear receding as the familiar, practical task takes over. She plucks out bits of leaf and dirt with tweezers, her fingers surprisingly steady. She flushes the wound with antiseptic, earning another pained tremor and a soft whine. The broken leg is beyond her. A clean break, it looks like, but it would need to be set properly. She can only clean the abrasions around it and hope. She packs the gash with gauze, then wraps its entire torso with wide bandages. The clean, white, a stark contrast to the dark, wet fur. It's a clumsy amateur job, but it's the best she can do. By the time she's finished, sweat is beading on her forehead, and her back is a riot of screaming muscles. The baby is a heavy, solid weight pressing down on her. She sits back on her heels, exhausted. The wolf's breathing has evened out slightly. It's still shallow, but the ragged, panicked edge is gone. It watches her, its golden gaze unwavering. She has brought a monster into her house. A wild, bleeding thing of teeth and shadow. And for the first time in months, The crushing weight of her loneliness feels different. Not gone, but shared. The days that follow fall into a strange, surreal rhythm. The storm passes, leaving behind a world scrubbed clean and glistening. But the power remains out. The silence of the cabin is broken only by the crackle of the fire, her own soft movements, and the quiet, steady breathing of the wolf. It doesn't move from its spot by the hearth. It sleeps, mostly, a deep, fevered sleep. Alara finds herself orbiting this creature, her life now tethered to its needs. She keeps the fire stoked, melting snow for fresh water, which she leaves in a bowl by its head. It drinks, lapping at the water with a weak tongue when it wakes. She makes broth. Rich, savory chicken broth, the kind her grandmother used to make when she was sick. She holds the bowl for the wolf, and to her astonishment, it eats. Slowly, delicately, it licks the broth from the bowl. She tilts towards its mouth. The sheer intimacy of the act is staggering. Her, a pregnant, runaway woman, hand-feeding a wild wolf in her grandfather's isolated cabin. If anyone could see her now, they would think she had lost her mind. Maybe she has. But as the days blur together, fear begins to curdle into a strange kind of companionship. She starts talking to it. At first, it's just practical things. I have to change your bandages now. Please don't bite me. The wolf never does. It endures her fumbling ministrations with a stoic stillness that is unnervingly human. It flinches when the antiseptic stings, but it never so much as curls its lip. Then, the words start to spill out of her. The things she has held locked inside for months. He didn't even want to come to the first appointment, she says one afternoon, carefully spooning more broth into the wolf's bowl. Its golden eyes are fixed on her face, listening. She knows it's ridiculous, but it feels like it's listening. Marcus. He said he was too busy. A merger was closing. He always had a merger, or a deal, or a conference call. Something more important than this. She gestures vaguely at her own swollen form. The wolf blinks slowly. When I told him it was a girl, he just nodded, like I'd told him the weather forecast. And he said, well, we'll need to adjust the trust provisions. Not, I can't wait to meet her. Not, is she healthy? Just logistics. A single tear escapes and traces a hot path down her cheek. She dashes it away, angry with herself. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you this. She continues to talk. She tells the wolf about her grandfather, about her dream of being an illustrator, a dream Marcus had called a cute hobby. She tells it about her fear of being a mother, of being alone, of failing this tiny, innocent life inside her. The wolf is her confessor, a silent, warm, breathing secret keeper. Its presence is a solid, grounding weight in the fluid uncertainty of her life. One evening, as she's changing its bandages again, she notices something that makes her pause. The wound. It's healing. Not just healing. It's healing at an impossible rate. The gash that had been a deep, angry red just a day or two ago is now clean and pink at the edges. New skin is forming, pulling the wound closed with a speed that defies all biology. Even the swelling around the broken leg seems to have lessened dramatically. It makes no sense. She touches the edge of the newly formed skin. It's warm and supple. The wolf watches her, and for a moment she feels a flicker of something in its gaze. Not fear. Not pain. Something that looks almost like apprehension, as if it has been caught in a secret. She dismisses it as a trick of the firelight. It's a strong animal, a wild animal. They heal faster than people. That's all. But the seed of strangeness has been planted. A few days later, she wakes in the middle of the night to a full bladder, a common occurrence now. The fire has burned down to glowing embers, casting the cabin in a deep red-orange gloom. She swings her legs out of bed, her feet finding the cold wood floor. The wolf is no longer on the rug. A jolt of pure adrenaline shoots through her. She scans the small cabin, her heart pounding. The shadows are deep and menacing. Then she sees it. It's standing by the window, standing, on all four legs. The leg that had been grotesquely broken is now straight and whole, bearing its full weight. There is no limp, no sign of injury at all. It's staring out the window at the moon, a perfect silver disk in a clear, black sky. Its silhouette is immense, powerful, radiating a vitality that makes the hair on her arms stand on end. It turns its head slowly and looks at her. Its golden eyes seem to glow in the dark. This is not a normal animal. The thought lands in her mind with the cold, hard finality of a stone. All the strange little details click into place. The unnerving intelligence. The impossible healing. The way it seems to understand her words. Her moods. Fear, cold and sharp, pierces through the comfortable familiarity she has built. She has been living with something she does not understand. Something that should not exist. The wolf takes a silent, deliberate step towards her. She freezes, her hand instinctively flying to her belly. It stops, as if sensing her terror. It lowers its head in a gesture that looks impossibly like submission. A soft, low whine escapes its throat, not of pain, of reassurance. Her fear remains, a high, singing note in her blood, but her compassion is a deeper chord. This creature, whatever it is, has not harmed her. It has been vulnerable, has let her care for it. It has listened to her secrets. Slowly, hesitantly, she lowers her hand. She doesn't run. She doesn't scream. She just stands there, in the dying firelight, looking at the impossible thing she has let into her life. The next morning, the strangeness lingers, a tangible tension in the air. The wolf is back on the rug, but it's no longer the pathetic, injured creature she first brought inside. It lies with a coiled, latent power, its movements fluid and certain. When she brings it water, it rises to its feet with a grace that belies its incredible size. She removes the bandages for the last time. Underneath, where the deep, ragged gash had been, is only a thin silver scar, barely visible against the thick black fur. The broken leg is perfect. It's a miracle, an impossibility. She runs a trembling hand over the healed fur. It's thick and soft, and the solid muscle beneath is warm and alive. The wolf leans into her touch, just slightly, a low rumble of contentment vibrating through its chest. It's not a growl, it's a purr, a sound. A creature this large should not be able to make. The touch is a bridge across the chasm of her fear. The physical reality of it, the warmth, the softness, the solid, living presence is more real than the swirling anxieties in her mind. "What are you?" she whispers, her fingers sinking deeper into its ruff. It just looks at her with those ancient, knowing, golden eyes. That afternoon, the fragile peace is shattered. The sound of an engine slices through the mountain's silence. A sound that doesn't belong here. A low, expensive growl that she recognizes with a sickening lurch of her stomach. Marcus. She scrambles to the window, her heart hammering against her ribs. His sleek silver car, utterly out of place, is navigating the muddy, rutted track that leads to the cabin. How did he find her? Her family? A private investigator? It doesn't matter. He's here. Panic, cold, and absolute, seizes her. The wolf is instantly on its feet, a low, guttural growl vibrating the very floorboards. Its posture has transformed. It is no longer a patient. It is a guardian. Its body is tense. Its ears are flat, and its lips are pulled back just enough to reveal the startling, lethal white of its canines. "No," she whispers, turning from the window, her hands held up as if to ward him off. "No, you have to hide. He can't see you." The idea of Marcus seeing the wolf, of him calling the authorities, of this creature being hunted and killed because of her, it's unbearable. The wolf looks from her to the window, the growl intensifying. It understands threat. "Please," she begs, her voice cracking. "In the bedroom. Please. You have to." She doesn't know why she thinks it will obey her, but it looks into her terrified eyes, and after a long, tense moment, the growl subsides. With a final, hard look at the approaching car, it turns and pads silently into the small bedroom, disappearing into the shadows. The car door slams. Footsteps on the porch. Heavy, impatient. A sharp, commanding knock on the door. Elara smooths her hands over her worn sweater, tries to school her features into a mask of calm she does not feel. She takes a deep breath and opens the door. Marcus stands there, looking utterly incongruous in his expensive cashmere coat and Italian leather shoes, now spattered with mud. His face is a mask of controlled fury. "Elara, enough of this melodrama." His voice is clipped, cold. He doesn't ask how she is. He doesn't acknowledge her pregnancy with anything more than a brief, distasteful flicker of his eyes. "What are you doing here, Marcus?" she asks, her voice steadier than she expected. She blocks the doorway with her body. "What am I doing?" he laughs, a short, ugly sound. "I'm cleaning up your mess again. You vanished. You emptied an account. Do you have any idea how that looks? My parents are asking questions. I've had to lie to everyone. This isn't a mess," she says quietly. "This is my life." "Don't be ridiculous." He pushes past her, striding into her small, safe space. His presence feels like a violation. He surveys the rustic cabin with open contempt. "You're living in a shack. You're pregnant, and you're acting like a child. The game is over. You're coming back with me, now." "No." The word is quiet, but it hangs in the air between them, solid and unmovable. He turns to face her, his eyes narrowing. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no, I'm not going anywhere with you." "Elara, you are not thinking clearly. Your hormones are making you irrational." He takes a step closer, his voice dropping to a low, menacing tone she knows all too well. It's the voice he uses just before he gets what he wants. "I have been very patient, but my patience has run out. You will get in the car, we will go back to the city, and you will do as you are told. We have a reputation to maintain." "Your reputation?" she clarifies, a spark of defiance igniting in her chest. "It was always about you, Marcus. Your plan, your reputation, your convenience." "That's enough," he snaps, his face twisting into an ugly sneer. He grabs her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh. "You're coming with me, even if I have to drag you." Pain, sharp and shocking, radiates up her arm. She flinches, trying to pull away, but his grip is like iron. A sound erupts from the bedroom. It's not a growl, it's a roar. A deep, terrifying, world-ending sound of pure, unrestrained fury. The bedroom door splinters, flying off its hinges as the wolf explodes into the room. It is a vision of primal rage, a blur of black fur and flashing teeth. It moves faster than anything that large should be able to move. Marcus freezes, his hand dropping from her arm as his face drains of all color. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. He is staring at an impossibility, a nightmare made flesh. The wolf doesn't charge him. It doesn't need to. It lands between him and Elara, a living wall of protective fury. It stands over her, its head lowered, the roar subsiding into the most menacing growl she has ever heard. Its entire body vibrates with the promise of violence. A string of saliva drips from its bared teeth, landing silently on the floorboards. Marcus stumbles backward, tripping over the leg of a chair and crashing to the floor. He scrambles away on his hands and knees, pure, animal terror etched onto his handsome face. He looks pathetic, small. He fumbles for the door, throws it open, and flees without a backward glance, leaving the door gaping wide. A moment later, the sound of his car engine roaring to life, tires spinning in the mud, then fading rapidly into the distance. Silence descends once more. A profound, ringing silence. Alara is shaking, her whole body trembling with adrenaline and shock. She stares at the wolf, at its massive, protective form standing guard over her. It turns its head, the growl dying in its throat. Its golden eyes, soft now with a concern that melts her bones, scan her face, her arm, her belly, checking for injury. But the effort, the sheer explosive force of its rage, was too much. A shudder runs through its powerful frame. It stumbles, its newly healed leg giving way. A pained whine escapes its throat as the silver scar on its flank pulls, a dark bead of fresh blood welling up on the surface. It collapses onto the floor, its strength utterly spent. It lies panting, looking up at her with exhausted, pain-filled eyes. He protected her. This impossible creature protected her and her unborn child from the man who was supposed to love them. Something inside her breaks. A dam of fear and loneliness and despair she has been holding back for months. Without a second thought, she drops to her knees beside it. The hard wood floor presses into her knees, but she doesn't care. The wolf is weak, trembling. The cold air from the open door is washing over it. She shuffles closer, her movements clumsy with her pregnancy. She wraps her arms around its thick, warm neck, burying her face in its soft fur. It smells of ozone and forest and a wild, clean musk that is utterly its own. She shields its body with her own. A small, soft, pregnant woman, protecting the massive, terrifying creature that had just saved her. It is a reciprocal sacrifice, an instinct, a truth deeper than words. "It's okay," she sobs into its fur, her tears soaking into the thick pelt. "I'm here. You're safe. It's okay." She holds it, her body shielding it from the cold draft, her arms a circle of comfort. And then, the world goes mad. The body beneath her begins to shift. It's a horrifying, convulsive movement. A sound of cracking bone and tearing sinew. The solid mass of muscle and fur beneath her hands seems to melt, to reform. A wave of intense, searing heat radiates from it, so powerful it forces her to pull back, shielding her eyes. She stares, her mind refusing to process what her senses are screaming at her. The fur recedes, like a shadow being pulled back into the skin. The powerful muzzle shortens, softens. The massive paws elongate, knuckles and fingers forming from the compressed bone and claw. Shoulders broaden, a torso lengthens. Where the wolf had been, a man now lies. He is sprawled on the floor, naked, his body lean and corded with muscle. His skin is pale in the cool light of the cabin. Long, untamed black hair, the same jet black as the wolf's fur, is spilled across the floorboards. A thin silver scar, jagged and new, slices across the taut skin of his flank, exactly where the wolf's wound had been. He is unconscious, breathing deeply, as if in a profound sleep. Alara stares, her breath trapped in her lungs, her mind a screaming void of pure, undiluted shock. Her hands are still hovering in the air where the wolf's neck had been. Now there is only the bare, warm skin of a man's shoulder. Her knees give out. She sinks to the floor, her back hitting the rough-hewn wall of the cabin with a dull thud. The impact barely registers. Her gaze is fixed on the impossible sight before her. The man on her floor, the splinters of the bedroom door, the lingering primal scent of wolf and ozone. It's not possible. It's not real. She's dreaming. She's gone mad from the solitude. This is a hallucination brought on by stress and fear. But the cold draft from the open door is real. The ache in her back is real. The frantic, fluttering heartbeat of her baby is real. And the man lying on her floor is real. He groans, a low, human sound of pain that cuts through her paralysis. His brow furrows, and his eyes flutter beneath their lids. He is going to wake up. A wave of nausea and dizziness washes over her. She presses a hand to her mouth, fighting it down. She can't faint. She can't fall apart. Not now. She has a naked, unconscious, shape-shifting man on her floor. A man who was, moments ago, a giant wolf. A man who was injured. A man who saved her. Her mind spins, trying to find purchase on a single, solid thought. Modesty. Practicality. These are the things she clings to. He's naked. He's cold. Her grandfather's clothes are in the chest at the foot of her bed. She forces her trembling legs to obey her, stumbling into her own room. She pulls out a pair of old, soft flannel pajama pants and a thick wool sweater. They will be too big for her, but for him, she doesn't know. Returning to the main room feels like stepping into another dimension. He's still there, still real. She hesitates, her face burning. She has to dress him. The idea is both terrifying and absurdly domestic. She leaves the clothes beside him, unable to bring herself to touch him yet. She needs a moment. She needs to breathe. She goes to the door Marcus left open and shoves it shut, ramming the bolt home with more force than necessary. The sound echoes in the too quiet room. She turns back to the man. His eyes are open. Not fully, just slits. But he is watching her, and his eyes, they are the same. The exact same intelligent, piercing, molten gold as the wolf's. All the air leaves her body in a rush. "Who?" she starts, but her voice fails her. She swallows, tries again. "What are you?" He tries to push himself up on one elbow, hissing in pain as the movement pulls at the scar on his side. He collapses back onto the floor, his breathing ragged. His voice, when it comes, is a low, rough rasp, hoarse from disuse, or perhaps from the roar that shattered her door. "My name is Kale." Kale. The name sounds ancient, wild. He looks from her face to the clothes she laid beside him, then back to her. A flicker of something shame, vulnerability crosses his features. "I apologize," he rasps, "for the state of things." His apology is so startlingly formal, so at odds with the sheer, primal insanity of the situation, that it breaks through her shock. You were a wolf," she whispers, the words feeling flimsy and inadequate. He closes his eyes for a moment, a flicker of pain, or perhaps exhaustion, on his face. Yes. Just, yes. A simple confirmation of the impossible. "You're a shifter?" she asks, the word tasting strange in her mouth. It's a word from fantasy novels, from late-night movies. Not a word for the real world, not for her grandfather's cabin. "It's what we are called," he says, his golden eyes opening again to watch her. "My kind." His kind. There are more of them. The thought is both terrifying and strangely comforting. He's not a singular monster. He's part of something. "You were hurt," she says, stating the obvious. "The gash, your leg." "A disagreement," he says, his voice tight, "with a bear over territory." "I was careless," he grimaces. "And then I felt you." "Me?" "Your fear, your distress. It was a beacon," he says, his gaze dropping to the swell of her belly. "For a shifter, a mate, their emotion is a physical force. It pulls. Your fear was screaming. I followed it. I didn't think. I just ran. Mate." The word hangs in the air between them, more shocking than the transformation itself. Mate. The world tilts on its axis. The pull she felt towards the wolf. The strange, immediate sense of trust. The way her loneliness had eased in its presence. It wasn't her imagination. It wasn't madness. It was this connection. That's not possible, she stammers, taking a step back. Her back hits the wall again. I'm human, and I'm pregnant. She presses a hand to her stomach, a shield. With another man's child. A shadow of profound pain crosses his face. It's a deep, wrenching sadness that makes her own heart ache in response. The bond does not care for such things, he says quietly, his voice filled with a raw, melancholic weight. It chooses one soul. It tethers us. His scent is on you, but it is your soul that called to me, your pain that I felt in my own bones. He gestures weakly towards the baby. And the child. A child of my mate is a child of my pack, a child to be protected. It makes no difference where the seed came from. It is yours. That is all that matters. It's too much. It's all too much. Her logic, her understanding of the world, is fracturing, shattering into a million pieces. She slides down the wall until she's sitting on the floor, her head in her hands. I need a minute, she breathes. He is silent. He gives her the space she needs. His presence a quiet, patient weight on the other side of the room. She can feel his gaze on her, warm and steady. After a long time, she lifts her head. He hasn't moved. He's just watching her, his expression a mixture of pain, exhaustion, and a deep, soul-shaking tenderness. He saved her. He calls her his mate. He has accepted her child without a second's hesitation. He has shown her more honor and protection in the last hour than Marcus did in 5 years. Slowly, she gets to her feet. She walks over to him, picks up the clothes she brought, and kneels beside him. Can you sit up? She asks, her voice soft. He nods, and with a grimace of pain, pushes himself into a sitting position, leaning heavily against the hearth. The firelight plays over the hard planes of his chest and shoulders. She doesn't let herself think. She just acts. She helps him pull the thick wool sweater over his head, her fingers brushing against the cool skin of his back. A jolt, like static electricity, sparks between them. He sucks in a sharp breath at the contact. She helps him guide his legs into the flannel pants. He's weak, his movements clumsy. The entire process is awkward and intimate and utterly surreal. Once he's dressed, he looks less like a wild thing and more like a man. A very large, very tired man, drowning in her grandfather's old clothes. He leans his head back against the stone of the fireplace, his eyes closed. Thank you. You should be in bed, she says, her voice taking on a practical, almost nurse-like tone. It's easier than dealing with the storm of emotion inside her. You're exhausted and hurt. The transformation, after an injury, it takes a toll, he admits, not opening his eyes. The rage, that also drains the reserves. I don't have a bed big enough, she says, thinking of her own small double bed. The floor is fine, he murmurs, as long as I am near, it is enough. Near you. She retrieves a pillow from her bed and a stack of the thickest wool blankets she can find. She arranges them on the rug where he had lain as a wolf, a makeshift bed. He watches her through heavy-lidded eyes as she works. When she's done, he slowly, painfully eases himself down onto the blankets, curling onto his side and pulling another blanket over himself. He looks up at her from the floor. Alara, he says, her name a soft prayer on his lips. I am sorry for frightening you. I never intended for you to see. This, not like this. You saved me, she says simply. You saved us. A faint smile touches his lips, a fleeting expression of relief. That is my right, he whispers, his voice already growing thick with sleep. It is my only purpose. And with that, his eyes drift shut, and his breathing deepens into the slow, steady rhythm of sleep. Alara stands over him for a long time, a storm of impossible thoughts and emotions warring inside her. fear and wonder. Disbelief and a strange, terrifying hope. Her life, which had been broken and empty, is now filled with a secret so immense it threatens to consume her. She has a monster sleeping on her floor. A guardian. A shifter. Her mate. The days after the revelation are quiet, but charged with a new, unspoken tension. Kyle sleeps for nearly 24 hours straight, a deep, healing sleep. Alara moves around him, her steps soft, her heart a tangled knot of anxiety and wonder. She watches him breathe. She watches the way the firelight flickers across his strong, unguarded face. He looks younger in sleep, less like an ancient, powerful creature, and more like a man burdened by a heavy weight. When he finally wakes, he is weak, but the sharp edge of his pain has dulled. He moves stiffly, favoring his side, but he is coherent, and he is determined to push her away. "You should leave," he says, his voice a low rumble. He's sitting by the fire, nursing a mug of broth she made him. He won't look at her. He stares into the flames. "Leave?" she asks, her voice sharper than she intends. "Where would I go?" "Back to Marcus. You saw what he is." "My world is more dangerous than him," Kale says, his knuckles white around the mug. "The bear that injured me. It wasn't an ordinary animal. There are rival packs, old feuds, laws you don't understand. Being my mate. It puts a target on your back. It's a death sentence for a human, especially one who is," he hesitates, "vulnerable." He means pregnant. He means her. "I've been vulnerable my whole life," she says, her voice quiet but fierce. She comes to stand in front of him, forcing him to look at her. "I was vulnerable when my parents told me my art was a waste of time. I was vulnerable when my boss took credit for my work. I was vulnerable every single time Marcus made me feel small and stupid and irrational. The only time in my adult life I have ever felt truly, completely safe was when a giant wolf was sleeping on my floor." His golden eyes meet hers, and she sees a universe of conflict in them. His duty to protect her is at war with his instinct to claim her. "I am a monster, Alara," he whispers, the words full of self-loathing. "You saw what I am, the rage, the violence. I could hurt you without meaning to." "You didn't," she counters, her voice softening. "You saved me. You've been nothing but gentle with me. You were more gentle as a wolf than most men have ever been in their human form." She takes a breath, her heart pounding. This is it. The moment to stand her ground, not as a victim, but as a choice. "I'm not afraid of you, Kale." The words hang between them, a fragile, powerful truth. He searches her face, looking for any hint of a lie, any flicker of fear. He finds none. Only a weary, stubborn resolve. A shudder runs through him. He sets the mug down on the hearth with a hand that is not quite steady. "You should be," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "Maybe," she concedes, "but I'm not." She reaches out, her hand hesitating for a fraction of a second before she gently touches his cheek. His skin is rough with stubble, but warm, alive. At her touch, his eyes flutter shut, and a low, broken sound escapes his throat. He leans into her palm, like a starving man offered bread. It's a gesture of complete surrender. The confession comes in a torrent, a flood of words held back for a lifetime. "I have been alone for so long," he murmurs, his eyes still closed, his voice a raw whisper. An alpha leads, he protects, he decides. But he is always apart, always separate. I never thought the bond would happen for me. I thought I was destined to be alone." He opens his eyes, and the sheer, desperate longing in them is a physical blow. "The moment I felt your fear, it was like the world finally came into color. It was agony, but it was real. It was a connection. And when I saw you, standing in that doorway, so terrified but so brave, it was like coming home." Her own confession feels small in comparison, but she gives it to him anyway. I thought I was broken, she whispers, her thumb stroking his cheek. I thought Marcus had shattered anything good in me. But when I found you, when I was caring for you, I felt useful. I felt strong. I felt strong. I felt like me again. He turns his head and presses a kiss into the center of her palm. The touch is electric, a jolt of pure, unadulterated longing that travels up her arm and settles deep in her core. It's not a kiss of seduction. It's a kiss of reverence, of gratitude. Ilara, he breathes her name against her skin. He rises to his feet, a fluid movement that speaks of his inherent power. And now he is standing before her, towering over her, but he doesn't feel menacing. He feels like a shield. He gently takes her hand from his face, his large, warm hands enveloping hers. He looks down at her, his golden eyes burning with an intensity that makes her breath catch. Is this what you want? He asks, his voice low and serious. A life with me? With my pack? A life of shadow and danger and secrets? I want a life where I am not alone, she answers honestly. I want a life where my child is protected. I want a life with you. It is her choice, her claim. That is all he needed to hear. He lowers his head, and his lips meet hers. The kiss is not gentle. It is a cataclysm. It is all his pent-up loneliness, all his fierce protectiveness, all his desperate, soul-deep longing poured into a single, devastating act. It is a brand, a seal, a promise. She kisses him back with all her own broken pieces, with all her newfound strength, with the fierce, desperate hope for a future she had never dared to imagine. It's a kiss that tastes of wood smoke and tears, and the impossible, wonderful truth of a home found in the most unlikely of arms. When he finally breaks the kiss, they are both breathless. He rests his forehead against hers, his eyes closed. Mine, he growls, the sound a low, possessive vibration against her lips. Not a claim of ownership, a statement of fact, a declaration of belonging. Yours, she whispers back, and for the first time, the word doesn't feel like a surrender. It feels like a victory. 6 months later, the world is no longer pine and silence. It is the rich, loamy scent of a thriving forest, the murmur of 100 lives lived in concert, and the distant, happy sound of children playing. Hale's Pack territory is a sprawling, hidden valley, a sanctuary carved out of the deep wilderness, protected by mountains and magic. There are houses built into the hillsides, their lines organic and flowing, blending seamlessly with the landscape. Smoke curls from stone chimneys, and the air hums with a quiet, powerful energy. Ilara stands on the porch of the Alpha's house. Their house a solid, beautiful structure of riverstone and ancient timber. In her arms, a small, warm bundle snoozes contentedly. Willow. Her daughter. She is 2 months old, with a tuft of downy black hair and eyes that are slowly deciding what color they want to be. She is perfect. She is healthy. She is loved with a fierce, absolute devotion by everyone around her. Hale's pack had been wary at first. A human mate, pregnant with another's child. But Kael's word was law, and his devotion to Ilara was so palpable, so absolute, that their wariness had quickly melted into acceptance, and then into a fierce protectiveness of their own. They had seen her quiet strength, her unwavering compassion. They had seen the way their Alpha, once so solitary and burdened, now smiled. She had found not just a mate, she had found a family, a tribe. Hale steps onto the porch behind her, wrapping his strong arms around her and the baby. He rests his chin on top of her head, inhaling the scent of her hair. She's sleeping, he murmurs, his voice a low, happy rumble against her back. She's always sleeping. Ilara laughs softly. I think it's her superpower. He presses a kiss to her temple. You're happy here? He asks. It's a question he still asks often, a quiet insecurity that lingers beneath his Alpha certainty. She leans back against his solid warmth, her heart full to bursting. Kael, she says, turning her head to look at him, I'm home. His golden eyes soften, the last of his tension melting away. A car is approaching. The sound is still jarring in this peaceful place, a reminder of the world outside. It's a rental, sputtering up the long private road that leads to the valley. Hale tenses, his arms tightening around her instinctively. Who is it? Alara already knows. She feels no fear, just a weary, distant pity. It's him! Marcus. He had, through a series of expensive lawyers and relentless legal threats, managed to secure a single, supervised visit. A judge, seeing only a wealthy, repentant father and a woman with no fixed address who had run away, had granted it. Hale had wanted to refuse, to tear the court order to shreds and the lawyers with it, but Alara had stopped him. Let him come, she'd said. Let him see. The car pulls to a stop. Marcus gets out. He looks smaller here, diminished by the scale of the mountains, the ancient trees. His expensive suit looks like a costume. He carries a ridiculously large teddy bear. He stops short when he sees them on the porch. His gaze flickers from Alara, looking healthy and serene, to the powerful, imposing man holding her, to the tiny, perfect baby in her arms. His carefully constructed mask of confident entitlement cracks. He sees a life that has moved on without him, a life that is thriving in his absence. Alara, he begins, his voice strained. Kyle doesn't growl. He doesn't move. He simply stands there, his presence a silent, immovable declaration of ownership and protection. His golden eyes are flat and cold as a winter sky. Marcus falters. He looks at Willow, at the daughter he discarded. He sees a child who will never need him, who will be raised by a man who is more than a man, in a world of fierce love he can't even begin to comprehend. He sees what he lost, what he threw away out of pride and convenience. He takes a half step forward, then stops. The distance between them is a chasm he can never cross. He looks at Alara one last time, at the woman he tried to break. She is not broken. She is whole. She is radiant. She doesn't glare at him. She doesn't say a word. She just looks at him with a calm, quiet strength. And in her eyes, he finally sees himself for what he is. Small, selfish, irrelevant. Without another word, Marcus drops the teddy bear in the dirt. He turns, gets back in his rented car, and drives away. They watch until the sound of the engine is swallowed by the forest. Hale finally relaxes his hold, letting out a slow breath. He will not be back, he says. It is not a guess. It is a certainty. Alara looks down at her sleeping daughter, her heart aching with a fierce, protective love. She smooths a hand over Willow's soft hair. She thinks about the woman she was, shivering in that cabin, alone and terrified, believing she was weak and flawed. She remembers the moment she made the choice to open the door, to offer help to a dying creature against all logic and reason. It was an act of compassion, an act of defiance against the cruelty of the world she'd known. That single, foolish, wonderful choice. She had thought she was saving a wolf, but in the end, it was her own heart she was saving. It was her own life she was claiming. Her compassion had not been a weakness. It had been a key, unlocking a door to a world she never knew existed. A door that led her here. It had led her home.